Pink by Kyoko Okazaki. This is one of the first josei manga that I've reviewed on this channel, I do believe, if not the first. This was a very, very interesting read, very eye-opening in terms of my ability to critically analyse manga and look at it from different perspectives. This was a very different read from my general repertoire of things that I do like to read. Josei is not a demographic that I'm too familiar with, so it was very alternative and stuck with me very much so. This is actually the second work, sorry, by Kyoko Okazaki that I've read. The first being Helter Skelter, which I read in my 24-hour manga marathon last year. And yeah, this is a really, really good work. So we have our main character, Yumi. Yumi is a 20-something young, attractive lady, Japanese lady, who by day works in an office, which is very standard of girls her age in the time that this is set. But by night she moonlights as a call girl, a prostitute, to try and make ends meet, to not only be able to pay her rent, feed herself, but also feed her her pet crocodile, who, as you would imagine a crocodile to have, has a very voracious appetite and requires a lot of sustenance in regards to keeping it alive. It needs to eat a lot. And Croc, as the crocodile is so imaginatively named, represents in this story that every woman's something. That's something that every woman needs in her life to be able to identify herself and have something to show that makes them unique. It makes them stand out, have a quirk. That's what Croc represents in this story, and that's what Kyoko Okazaki wants to get across to the reader, which is very frank. But one thing that I would say that this story is, I would probably call it a modern day period piece. Now, when a story is written that's considered a period piece, you imagine it to be very, from a very old time, period, an ancient period. But this is set like the late 80s, early 90s, you could say. I mean, there's no particular date specified in the story, but this is definitely set in a time in Japan where the bubble economy was just about to burst. Capitalism, consumerism was at its zenith, completely skyrocketing. The Japanese economy was booming. It was bubbling out. Eventually, obviously, that bubble does burst. And it's set on that cusp, that thin line between between those two ends. And the way the characters are portrayed, they're portrayed as very disenchanted with life and very whimsical. Yumi herself is very, very whimsical. She doesn't really think things through. She just kind of acts on a whim and basically takes every day as a new day. She just takes things day by day, doesn't have any long-term plans. And yeah, she doesn't really take much care for herself in that regard. She has very strained and dysfunctional relationships with her mother-in-law, who's also a focus in this story. And we see character after character in this one-volume story who acts very whimsically and spur of the moment and doesn't really have any long-term plans. Another character we're introduced to is Haru, who is an aspiring novelist who is he's kind of struggling with writer's block. He doesn't know what to write, even though he's full of aspiration and enthusiasm for the craft that he wants to work his way into. And Haru is sleeping with a woman like more than double his age. We found out that this woman is actually Yumi's stepmother, and Yumi finds this out through I guess you could say black market contact, aka her younger sister. And from this point on, the story takes a really interesting turn of events, where these characters, all three of them, kind of get interlinked, in this really wild, unusual story, but a story that is regarded essentially as a staple of its times. And the characters more than reflect this in the story. Now, this manga isn't a light read. It isn't something that you can read on a nice sunny afternoon while you're drinking tea and eating biscuits, listening to the birds sing away. It's It's full of lots of gratuitous sexual scenes, lots of nudity, some very, very filthy language, and is a very, very mature series. I mean, Josei is basically the seinen to what shonen is. Josei is the step up from shoujo. It's adult woman's manga, a manga that's supposed to be written where adult women can relate to it. Now, even though I'm not the target demographic for this story, that isn't to say that I can't enjoy it. I more than enjoyed this series. I thought it was brilliant, even though it's been a while since I've actually read this. I read this months ago, last year. But it's really stuck with me. It really struck a chord with me, similar to how Helter Skelter struck a chord with me. And I don't know whether it was Helter Skelter or this that I liked more, or whether I just liked them equally, because they're both very similar stories dealing with very dysfunctional female lead characters, stuck in a world where they can't progress because they don't know how. That really struck a chord with me, because I do feel that just nowadays, generally, the youth is very disenchanted. Probably how it was in the Japanese bubble economy, and you know, you've got so much information at your disposal. Nobody really needs to put in much effort, which is why people become very complacent and whimsical in nature. And I think this story really does exemplify that in its characters, and that's what I really liked about it, and that's what I felt was, I guess you could say, relatable in a certain respect. Even though this is obviously targeted towards older women and supposed to relate to them, there are aspects of this manga that I feel I could personally relate to as well. And for that, yeah, it very much struck a chord with me. One thing I also really like about this manga as well is its symbolism. I guess you could say the entire art style is symbolic of the characters' personalities. I mean, the art style is very sketchy. If I had to compare it to anything, I would compare it to the same art style as Crayon Shin-chan. It has that very, not necessarily immature, but that childlike, sketchy nature to it, where it kind of makes the characters seem very super deformed at times, even though they're depicted in very realistic situations and scenarios and having very realistic and mature conversations. It kind of, there's that juxtaposition between the quote unquote immature art style to the very mature subject matter. I really like that polarizing aspect of the series. Now finally, this is something I would definitely recommend, obviously to a mature audience, but you don't necessarily have to be a seinen or shonen only male reader to be able to appreciate a story like this, as it's very multifaceted, and you can enjoy it on different levels. You can enjoy it simply for the artwork, the quirkiness of it. You can enjoy it for its semi slice of life nature, with unrealistic but also quite realistic scenarios and situations. I mean, you have an office lady moonlighting as a prostitute to feed her pet crocodile. I mean, that's completely unrealistic, but it's told in a realistic manner. So there are multiple levels to which anybody really can enjoy this, if obviously you're a mature reader. If you're not really too fond of kind of straying away from the beaten track in terms of what you're used to, then I guess you could kind of feel out of your depth with this, as I was quite reluctant to pick this manga up, and just generally Kyogo Okazaki's work, just from like the first glance of it, as I thought it wouldn't be necessarily something I would enjoy, but thankfully I was proven wrong. So if this is something you're quite interested in checking out, then by all means check it out. It's still in print, published by Vertical. I might as well put in the plug here to my book depository affiliate link, which is in the description below. It's not something I've mentioned for a while. So if you are interested in this and you want to purchase it, go on the book depository, click on the link in the description below. I get commission off of every sale. You get cheap manga with free worldwide shipping. And if you've read the series already, drop me your thoughts in the comment section below, because I may have missed something in this review, as this is out of my own comfort zone, so it's been a difficult review for me to make, as I've had to analyse it from a different perspective, and in terms of negatives, it's difficult to pull a negative out of this when I'm not familiar with the Josei demographic full stop, so I don't know what's good and what's considered good and what's not considered good. So I just appreciate it for what it was, and yeah, it just gets all round thumbs up from me. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.